My guest is Kate Dryden, Executive General Manager Growth at Veolia. G'day, Kate.
Hello.
Your business incorporates water, waste management, energy, traditionally male-dominated area. You've got 17% women in the business.
Yeah.
To what extent do women stereotype your business and think, well, that's not a workplace for me?
I think traditionally that has absolutely been the case. If we think about the truck drivers picking up our bins of a morning, I think that we would all think of a male truck driver or a male person picking up the bins. Water treatment operators, engineers, those are all areas which traditionally, yes, are thought of as being male dominated, but there are absolutely increasing examples where there are women across all areas of our business. It's not just women who are answering the phones at the call centres or women who are behind the admin desk. We have women in all aspects of our business, and that's great.
You're also working towards a more inclusive workplace. You've got a joint venture in the Pilbara and a lot of indigenous employees there. What have you learnt from that experience?
Yeah, we do, and that's been actually a great experience for the broader business, just in terms of learning more about Indigenous culture. I went recently to the launch of our second reconciliation action plan in Western Australia, and it was actually a really wonderful representation of what the journey has been, because at this launch, rather than it being what some of the wrap launches can be like, which are quite corporate and quite scripted, actually it was entirely run in essence by our Aboriginal and Indigenous partners, and they were talking about some of the activities that we have done with them and why they see the importance, why they, as opposed to us, see the importance of our relationship with them and the link between our ultimate goal of sustainability with diversity. It was a nice example of where we've come, because it was seeing where people had really engaged with what our business was and where we had really engaged with where they'd come from. And that's, to me, sort of the whole purpose behind diversity and inclusion.
How are you making the change?
Yeah.
How are you doing that? Because, as you say, women will look at truck driving and think, well, you're up against the fact that a lot of women will think, well, that's a male profession.
Yes, and we're making the change in many different ways. So it's certainly not just one one set method. So we have activities across our divisions, across all sort of areas of diversity. So cultural and linguistic, Indigenous, disability, gender, families, and families is actually something that for Veolia, it has always been very much known throughout all our divisions as a very sort of family-oriented business, and families are that's sort of deep in our values, and so that's actually been a very nice way to bring this message along. So whether it is flexible working arrangements or improving our parental leave policy for our primary and our secondary carers, doing Harmony Day activities, Indigenous awareness activities. It's actually quite cross-sectional. We have, in terms of your question about the male-dominated industry, we've got a great pink garbage truck in Adelaide, and it supports the McGrath Foundation and raises awareness of breast cancer. But actually, at the same time, it also brings attention to the fact that this is not just a male industry, that we are quite inclusive and aware of female issues as well. And it's slowly just things like that which is starting to touch people throughout the organisation. Social media campaigns, internal advocacy. There is no one set method that we've followed.
There's some plain speaking, maybe that's typical of your industry. There's plain speaking going on. Talk to me about the conference where you had 10% of your staff and sat down and just did some honest looks at where you're falling short and why that might be alienating for some people.
Yeah, we had this year a conference where 400 people were in attendance, as you say, 10% of our staff. And yes, plain speaking is absolutely at the heart of every day in our business. And what it meant there was talking about our diversity and inclusion strategy, but why it's important, and really both saying that quite clearly and quite clearly. I mean, there's many reasons why that's important. Our customers are absolutely demanding it. There's absolutely no ignoring the fact that studies have all shown businesses are more successful the more diverse that they are. Our investors are demanding it. Our parent company over in France is demanding it and is setting targets in that perspective. But also it was about calling out where we could, where we've fallen down and where we could make improvements. So it wasn't being shy about the fact that we had discovered a situation where one of our female truck drivers didn't have a bathroom or a change room where she could change her uniform at the site where she started and ended her shift. And we didn't shy away from that. We fixed the situation, obviously, but we also communicated about it, because calling out those sort of examples is the only way that then people can have awareness to some of the things that they might have been unconscious to, just took for granted, didn't actually realise were an issue.
At this site, the female truck driver would turn up and there's no change room for her. So how was she dealing with that situation?
Yeah, we discovered that she didn't want to raise a stir, and you see that often. I don't want to make a big thing about this, and so she just, along the route that she followed for picking up the bins, she had identified where there were public toilets or toilets which she could pop into and use the bathroom and change her clothes, and so she had dealt with it in her own way and hadn't raised a flag, and it wasn't until one of our HR staff just came along and did what we often try and do with all our managers, just sit at the site for a day, just take it all in. And so she just sat with this driver for the day and suddenly discovered this situation.
And what was the reaction of her colleagues and the 400 people at the conference to learning about this?
Embarrassment and an immediate desire to want to fix that situation.
The way in which you're working to create a more diverse and inclusive workforce is working on everybody, is working on how to support older men as they transition to retirement and all the rest of it. Talk to me about what you're doing in that area and why that is important, not only in terms of their working lives, but why that is emblematic for the organisation about the sort of change you want to bring.
So diversity in all its forms. Age is absolutely part of it. And so while there's a lot of activities focused on our emerging workforce, there's also recognition of the fact that we have an ageing workforce. We are very, I would say, lucky to have longevity in our employee base, and so we have a lot of our staff who are reaching retirement age, and so it is just looking at, okay, how can we help them in that journey to retirement? How can we help them adjust, especially for those who are engaged in manual trades? It's not just saying, well, you're too old to do this job. It's what adjustments can we be making to to your job so that you can have that journey to retirement. And in some cases, that's it's adjustments to their working situation. The seats that they're sitting in, whether it's in a truck or at a water treatment plant or the like. And sometimes it's about reducing the hours that they're working, and so they might be ramping down from sort of full-time work to part-time work. It is, as with everything with this sort of topic, it's looking at the individuals and not just having a one-size-fits-all situation. So, and it's just really listening to our people.
And so in the end, what do you hope to change, say over 5 years? Is it more about how you work or who's working for you?
Both, absolutely. We certainly have a desire to have more and sort of some set targets in relation to more indigenous employees, more female employees, but also it's more about, okay, how can we make sure that we're working all together, all of these different aspects of our workforce, so that we can be more effective, because such a large part of what we do is about innovation, adjusting to the different circumstances of our clients, of the environment, coming up with new solutions. And we can only be innovative, I very firmly believe, if we are taking in the opinions and the views of all members of our workforce, and making sure that that they are diverse.
It's a great project, isn't it?
It is a great project. It is, and it's a continuing project. But it's one, I've been with the company for 8 years, and I think of where we were when I started 8 years ago and where we are today, and I can see great progress that's been made. And I know that in 8 years' time, I'll look back at today and think, gosh, that was nothing compared to what we are today. So, it's great to be on the journey.
Lovely to chat to you.
Great to chat to you. Thank you.